This is the Daf Yomi for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. We're in Sanhedrin 70. So the reason is that all are found frequently with her in sin, and in the end she will be a sinner and cause others to sin, but it is a Torah edict that the penalty for rebelliousness is imposed only upon a son and not upon a daughter. Okay, so now in a new Mishnah it says, From when is a stubborn and rebellious son liable? From when he eats a tartamar of meat and drinks a half log of Italian wine. Rabbi Yoshi says, from when he eats a mana of meat and drinks a log of wine. Okay, the Mishnah now lists a series of conditions concerning his eating and drinking. So if he ate these items with a group assembled for the performance of a mitzvah, or he ate them at a meal celebrating the intercalation of a month, or he ate the items when they had second tithe status in Jerusalem, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son, because each of these circumstances involves some aspect of a mitzvah. If he ate the meat of unslaughtered animal carcasses, or animals that had wounds that would have caused them to die within 12 months, or trephot, or repugnant creatures or creeping animals, or he ate untithed produce from which tithes and terumot were not separated, or first tithe from which its teruma was not separated, or second tithe outside of Jerusalem, or consecrated food that was not redeemed, each of which involves a transgression, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son. The Mishnah summarizes, if he ate an item that involves performing a mitzvah, or an item that involves committing a transgression, or if he ate any food in the world but did not eat meat, or if he drank any beverage but did not drink wine, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son, unless he actually eats meat and drinks wine. As it states, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious, he does not listen to our voice, etc. He's a glutton, so zolel, and a drunkard, vesove. Deuteronomy 21:20. One is not called a glutton and a drunkard unless he eats meat and drinks wine. And although there is no explicit proof to the matter that the reference in the Torah is to meat and wine, there is an allusion to the matter in another verse, as stated, "Be not among wine drinkers, among gluttonous eaters of meat." Proverbs 23:20. Okay, the Gemara now. It says, Rabbi Zera says concerning the tartamar that is mentioned in the Mishnah, I do not know what its measure is, but since Rabbi Yoshi is found to have doubled the measure of the wine, as an unattributed option in the Mishnah speaks of a half log, whereas Rabbi Yoshi requires a log, he presumably is found to have doubled the measure of the meat as well. Therefore, it turns out that a tartamar is equivalent to 1/2 of a mana. So Rav Hana bar Molada says that Rav Huna says, a stubborn and rebellious son is not liable unless he purchases inexpensive bezol, or meat, and eats it, and buys inexpensive wine and drinks it, as it is written, he is a glutton, zolel, and a drunkard. And Rav Hana bar Molada says that Rav Huna says, a stubborn and rebellious son is not liable unless he eats meat and drinks undiluted wine. The Gemara raises a difficulty. Is that so? But don't Rabbah and Rav Yosef both say if he ate raw meat or drank undiluted wine, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son? Ravina said the two conflicting statements can be reconciled. If he ate totally raw meat or drank totally undiluted wine, he is in fact exempt. The undiluted wine for which he is liable is wine that is diluted but not diluted properly, and the raw meat for which he is liable is meat that is cooked but not cooked properly, like the scorched meat that thieves are wont to eat due to the hasty manner in which they must prepare their food. So Rabbah and Rav Yosef both say if he ate heavily salted meat or drank wine from his wine press, that is wine that has not finished fermenting, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son. And on a related topic, we learned in a Mishnah elsewhere, Tana 26b, on the eve of the 9th of Av, a person may not eat 2 cooked dishes in one meal. And furthermore, he may neither eat meat nor drink wine. And a Tana taught in a Baraita, but one may eat heavily salted meat, as it is not considered meat, and one may drink wine from his wine press before it has properly fermented. The Gemara asks, with regard to salted meat on the eve of the 9th of Av, how long must this meat remain in salt before it is permitted? Rabbi Hanina bar Kahana says, as long as it is like a peace offering. so which could be eaten for 2 days and 1 night after it was sacrificed. After this time has passed, it is no longer the type of meat that one may not eat during that meal. Therefore, it is, if it was salted for longer than this, it may be eaten on the eve of the 9th of Av. The Gemara inquires further, and with regard to wine from his wine press before it was properly fermented, until when is wine considered in this category? As long as it is still fermenting. And as taught in Braita, fermenting wine is not subject to the prohibition of exposed liquids, and there is no concern that a snake will leave its venom in that wine. And how long is its initial fermenting period? 3 days from the time the grapes were pressed. The Gemara clarifies, these definitions of salty meat and wine from his wine press were stated with regard to the prohibitions applying on the eve of the 9th of Av. Here, concerning a stubborn and rebellious son, what is considered salty meat and wine from his press? The Gemara answers, there, with regard to the eve of the 9th of Av, the prohibition is due to joy. As long as the meat is like a peace offering, there is still joy. But here, with regard to a stubborn and rebellious son, it is due to the son becoming drawn to it. And if the taste of the meat is drawn only slightly, he will not be drawn to it. And with regard to wine, there is no concern that he will be drawn to it until it is 40 days old. The Gemara's discussion turns to wine in general. Rav Hanan says, wine was created in the world only to comfort mourners in their distress, and to reward the wicked in this world so that they will have no reward left in the world to come. As it is stated, give strong drink to him that is ready to perish, and wine to the bitter of soul. Proverbs 31, verse 6. Him that is ready to perish is referring to the wicked, who will perish from this world, while the bitter of soul denotes mourners. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, what is the meaning of that which is written, look not upon wine when it is red? Proverbs 23:31. Look not upon wine that reddens the faces of the wicked in this world when they drink it, and whitens their faces or embarrasses them in the world to come. Rava says that this is how the verse should be understood. Look not upon wine that reddens, or yitadam, so it means look not upon wine as it leads to bloodshed, or dam, right? Indicating that one who drinks wine will end up committing an act of killing or will be killed because of it. So Rav Kahana raises a contradiction. The verse states, therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion, and shall flow to the bounty of the Lord for wheat and for wine, and for oil and for the young of the flock and of the herd. Jeremiah 31:11. The word for wine is written tirash without the letter vav, but we read it as tirosh with the letter vav. The matter can be explained as follows. If one merits and drinks a moderate amount, he becomes a leader, or rosh, whereas if he does not merit and drinks excessively, he becomes poor, or rash. So, Rava raises a similar contradiction. It is written, in wine that gladdens the heart of man, Psalms 104:15. The word for gladdens could be read as yeshamach, meaning that wine makes one crazy, but we read it as yeshamach, gladdens the heart. The matter can be explained as follows. If one merits and drinks a moderate amount of wine, gladdens him, mesamecho, whereas if he does not merit and drinks successfully, it makes him crazy. So, meshamemahu, and it is Rava, and that is what Rava meant when he said, wine and fragrant spices have made me wise. That is to say, the controlled drinking of wine is beneficial to the drinker. Rav Avram, son of Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, says that Rabbi Hanina says, what is the meaning of that which is written, who cries, woe, who cries, alas, who quarrels, who has complaints, who has causeless injuries, who has redness of eyes, they who tarry long at the wine, they who go to seek mixed wine. Proverbs 23:29 to verse 30. When Rav Dimi came to Eretz Yisrael, to Babylonia, he said that they say in the West, meaning in Eretz Yisrael, that one who interprets this verse from the beginning to the end interprets it in a way that has meaning and significance. And also one who interprets it from the end to the beginning interprets it in a meaningful manner. It is possible to interpret these verses from the beginning to the end and say, woe and alas to one who drinks wine. It is also possible to interpret them from the end to the beginning, who drinks wine, he who has quarrels, complaints, and injuries. A visitor from the Galilee expounded, the converse of Vav is stated 13 times in the passage concerning wine. as it is stated. And Noah began, so Vayachel, to be a farmer, and he planted Vayita, a vineyard, and he drank Vayesht of the wine, and was drunk, Vayishkar, and he was uncovered, Vayitgal, within his tent, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw Vayar, the nakedness of his father, and told Vayaged, his two brothers outside, and Shem and Japheth took, so Vayikach, the garment, and laid it, Vayasimu, upon both their soldiers, and went Vayelehu, backward, and covered Vachasu, the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke, Vayikates, from his wine, and knew, Vayeda, what his younger son had done to him. Genesis 9:20-24. All 13 instances of the conversive vav here are followed by the letter yod. Together they form the word ve, meaning woe, and allude to the suffering and misfortune caused by uncontrolled drinking. So having cited the passage discussing Noah, the Gemara enters into a discussion about what was actually done to him by his younger son Ham. Rav and Shmuel disagreed. One says that Ham castrated Noah, and one says Ham sodomized him. The Gemara explains, the one who says that Ham castrated Noah adduces the following proof. Since he injured Noah with respect to the possibility of conceiving a fourth son, which Noah wanted but could no longer have, therefore Noah cursed him by means of Ham's fourth son. Ham's sons were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Genesis 10, verse 6. And of all these, it was Canaan whom Noah cursed. Genesis 9:25-28. And the one, and the one who says that Ham sodomized Noah learned this from a verbal analogy between the words "and he saw" and quote "and he saw." Here it is written, "And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father." And there it is written, And Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hittite, prince of the country, saw her, and he took her and lay with her and afflicted her. This indicates that the term saw alludes to intercourse. So the Gemara asks, granted, according to the one who says that Ham castrated Noah, it is due to that reason that Noah cursed Ham by means of Ham's fourth son. But according to one who says that Ham sodomized him, what is different about this fourth son? He should have cursed Ham directly. The Gemara answers, this sage holds that both this offense and that offense were committed. All agree that Ham castrated Noah, and some say that Ham also sodomized him. So the Gemara continues to analyze the passage relating to Noah. The verse states, and Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. In the explanation of this matter, Rav Hista says that Rav Ukva says, and some say that Mar Ukva says, that Rabbi Zakkai says, the Holy One, blessed be he, said to Noah, shouldn't you have learned from Adam, the first man, whose banishment from the Garden of Eden was caused only by wine? The Gemara notes, this is in accordance with the opinion of the one who says that the tree from which Adam, the first man, ate was a grapevine. As it is taught in a Braita, Rabbi Meir says the tree from which Adam, the first man, ate was a grapevine. So as even today, nothing except wine brings wailing and trouble upon a person. Most sins are caused by drunkenness. Rabbi Yehuda says the tree of knowledge was the wheat plant that is proven by the fact that even today an infant does not know how to call out to his father or mother until he tastes the taste of grain. And for this reason, wheat is called the tree of knowledge. Rabbi Nehemiah says the tree of knowledge was a fig tree because it was with the matter with which they sinned, and they were rehabilitated, as it states, and they sewed together fig leaves and made for themselves loincloths. Genesis 3, verse 7. The Gemara continues its discussion of wine, referring to the verse that states, the words of King Lemuel, the burden with which his mother corrected him, Proverbs 31, verse 1, which is King Solomon. Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, this teaches that when Shlomo's mother, Bathsheba, saw Shlomo engaged in excessive drinking, she bound him to a pillar to have him flogged. And she said to him, "What, my son, and what, my son, son of my womb, and what, son of my vows?" Proverbs 31, verse 2. She meant, "What, my son?" Everyone knows that your father David was a God-fearing man, and now, when they see you sin, they will all say that his mother caused him to drink. That is, that you engage in these behaviors because you are my son. And what, son of my womb? That is to say, with regard to all the women of your father's house, once they conceive, they no longer see the face of the king. But I pushed myself in and entered the king's chamber while I was pregnant, so that I might have a son who is strong and fair-skinned. There are times during a woman's pregnancy when intercourse is beneficial for the development of the fetus. Bathsheba was telling Solomon, "I did my utmost to ensure that you have extra strength and beauty, and now you use that strength in appeal to pursue drink." So then the other statement, "And what, son of my vows?" Okay, this is to say, with regard to all of the women of your father's house, they would take vows while they were pregnant, saying, "Let me have a son who is fit to be king. But I, by contrast, took a vow and said, let me have a son who is diligent and filled with the knowledge of the Torah and fit for prophecy." It is further stated there, "It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes to say, where is strong drink." Proverbs 31, verse 4. The Gemara provides an explanation of the meaning of each part of this verse. It is not for kings. So Bathsheba said to her son Solomon, "What have you to do with kings who drink wine and become intoxicated and say, why, or lama, do we need God, or El?" The Gemara continues to explain the verse. Nor for princes, so rozenim, to say, where is strong drink? This means that one like Solomon, to whom all secrets, or razeh, of the world are revealed, should he drink wine and become intoxicated? Alternatively, there are those who say that this part of the verse should be understood as follows. One like Solomon, to whom all the princes of the world rise early to come to his door, should he drink wine and become intoxicated. Rabbi Yitzchak says, from where can it be learned that Solomon repented and admitted to his mother that she was justified in her rebuke? As it is written, it says, quote, "For I am more foolish than a man and have not the understanding of a man." Proverbs 30, verse 2. This should be understood as follows. For I am more foolish than a man, or Ish. That is, I am more foolish than Noah, who sinned with wine and is called a man, as it is written, and Noah began to be a farmer. So Ish ha'adamah, Genesis 9:20, and have not the understanding of a man, or Adam. That is a reference to Adam, the first man, who also sinned with wine in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who says that the tree of knowledge was a grapevine. The Mishnah teaches that if the son ate and drank the requisite amounts of meat and wine with a group assembled for the performance of a mitzvah, he does not become liable as a stubborn and rebellious son. Rabbi Abahu says he is not liable unless he eats with a group that is entirely made up of idlers. This seems to indicate that if he eats and drinks in the company of decent people, even if he consumes the required amounts that would otherwise make him liable, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son. The Gemara asks, but didn't we learn in the Mishnah, if the son ate and drank the requisite amounts of meat and wine with a group assembled for the performance of a mitzvah, he does not become liable as a stubborn and rebellious son? A precise reading in the Mishnah indicates that the reason that he does not become liable is that he ate and drank with a group assembled for the performance of a mitzvah. But if they were not assembled for the performance of a mitzvah, he would be liable even if the group is not entirely made up of idlers. The Gemara answers, there is no contradiction between the Mishnah and the statement of Rabbi Abahu. In fact, the son is liable only if he eats with a group of whom all are idlers. And the Mishnah teaches us this, that even if the group is entirely composed of idlers, since they are occupied with a mitzvah, there is no concern that he will be drawn to sin. The Mishnah teaches that if the son ate and drank the requisite amounts of meat and wine at a meal celebrating the intercalculation of a month, he does not become liable as a stubborn and rebellious son. The Gemara asks, is this to say that meat and wine are brought up to the upper chamber where the month is intercalated? But isn't it taught in Braita? They ascend to intercalate the month only with a meal consisting of bread made of grain and legumes. The Gemara answers, the Mishnah teaches this, even though they ordinarily ascend to the upper chamber only with bread and legumes, and he brought up meat and wine and ate them, since they are occupied with mitzvah, there is no concern that he will be drawn to sin. The sages taught in Braita, no fewer than 10 men ascended to the upper chamber for the intercalation of a month, and they ascend and they ascend to intercalate the month only with bread made of grain and legumes, and they ascend only on the night of the month's intercalation, and they ascend not by day, but only at night. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in Braita? They ascend not at night, but only by day. The Gemara explains, as Rabbi Chia bar Abba said to his sons, when you come to intercalate the month, ascend early and leave early, so that people should hear your comings and goings, and thereby know that you have been addressing this matter. The proper time for this is at daybreak between night and day. The Mishnah teaches that if he ate second tithe in Jerusalem, he is not liable as a stubborn and rebellious son. The Gemara explains, since he eats the second tithe in the normal way, that is, as he is commanded in Jerusalem, he will not be drawn to sin. The Mishnah teaches that if he ate the meat of unslaughtered animal carcasses or terefot or repugnant creatures or creeping animals, he is not liable as a stubborn and rebellious son. Rava says, if the boy ate the meat of fowl, even if he ate the required amount, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son. The Gemara raises a difficulty, but didn't we learn in the Mishnah that if a boy ate the meat of unslaughtered animal carcasses or terefot or repugnant creatures or creeping animals, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son? A precise reading of the Mishnah indicates that it is only if he ate the meat of such animals that he is not liable. But if he ate the meat of kosher animals, which includes the meat of fowl, he would become a stubborn and rebellious son, counter to the ruling of Rabbah. The Gemara resolves this difficulty. When we learned this in the Mishnah as well, it was in reference to completing the measure of wheat. Rabbah was speaking of the primary consumption of meat. The Mishnah teaches that if he ate an item that involved performing a mitzvah or an item that involved committing a transgression, he does not become a stubborn and rebellious son. The Gemara explains this ruling concerning an item that involves performing a mitzvah includes mitzvah by rabbinic law, such as comforting mourners. And the ruling concerning an item that involves committing a transgression includes transgressing prohibitions by rabbinic law, such as eating on a communal fast. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason that eating an item involving a mitzvah or a transgression does not render him stubborn and rebellious? So the Gemara answers, the verse states, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious, he will not obey our voices. Deuteronomy 21, verse 20, which indicates that the halacha applies to a boy who does not obey, quote, our voices, that is the voice of his parents, but not to one who also does not obey the voice of God. The Mishnah teaches that if the rebellious boy ate any other food, but did not eat meat, or if he drank any beverage, but did not drink wine, he is not liable as a stubborn and rebellious son. The Gemara clarifies, and that which the Mishnah teaches, the statement, if he ate any other food, but did not eat meat, comes to include pressed figs from the town of Keilah, the eating of which is as satisfying as eating meat, but for which one is not liable, and that which the Mishnah teaches, the statement, if he drank any beverage but did not drink wine, it comes to include honey and milk, which, though they can have a slightly intoxicating effect, do not render him liable as a stubborn and rebellious son. From where is it learned that honey and milk are intoxicating, as it is taught in Braita? If a priest ate pressed figs from Keilah, or drank honey or milk, thereby becoming intoxicated, and he then entered the temple to perform the temple service, he is liable for entering the temple while intoxicated. So that's the end of 70.